So of course the big thing in this country now is the shooting from a police officer to a unarmed black man in North Charleston, South Carolina, where the police officer initially stated in his report that he was trying to apprehend this man, this 50-year-old black man, and the black man attacked him and tried to take his taser. And a scuffle ensued, and because he tried to take his taser, the officer feared for his life and felt the need to use deadly force by shooting the man 5 times in the back. We all know that a video has since surfaced that showed the opposite. It showed that the man was trying to flee the officer, more than likely because the officer had used the taser and he was running away from being tased. If you watch the video, you'll see that the man wasn't in the greatest of shapes and he was not posing any threat to the officer. He was running away from the officer. You'll also see an object from that officer fall to his side at the very beginning of the video. Now it could be a taser, it may not be, but we'll see that as this process goes further. You'll see the object fall to the side. You'll see the officer take aim and fire off 8 shots. Again, 5 of those shots hitting the man in the back, and 1 of those shots actually piercing the man's heart. Once the man is down, this is the interesting part for me. Once the man is down, the officer is on the radio, following procedure, getting back up there, announcing that shots are fired, has been fired, that the subject is down. Those things are procedure. And he walks up to the office, to the gentleman, and handcuffs him, which is again police procedure. Now we could debate whether that is right or wrong, but that is again police procedure. But something interesting happens right after the handcuffing. You start to see another police officer come into focus into the video. And as that police officer is coming in, you'll see the initial police officer run back to where he fired off the shots and pick up that object that fell out of his hand and run back over to the victim and drop it next to him. Again, we can assume that it was the taser. We don't know. We'll know as we go on and as the investigation goes on. But he drops the object in front, right next to the victim. And the thing that stuck out in my mind to that part of it was the officer providing backup was a black officer. And he was standing there actually looking at the other police officer drop the alleged taser next to the victim. And he did nothing about it. He said nothing. I don't even think he was ever interviewed in this whole situation. It kind of boggles my mind that nobody even brings up that officer and asks that officer what did he see, and as he came onto the scene. That's kind of strange to me. I would think that by this point the video surfacing on Tuesday, here we are on Wednesday, I'm thinking by this point someone should have spoken to that officer, or at least requested to speak to that officer, or even mentioned the fact that he was there, and I haven't seen that yet. And I bring up the fact that this was a black police officer for the reason of I am noticing throughout this whole country that this is becoming a problem. And the problem that I'm seeing with black police officers is that they tend to want to police the black community a little harder than white police officers or police officers of other races, kind of like trying to show themselves as, I'm a part of this brotherhood. I have to prove myself to let you know that I'm on your team, so I'm going to go harder on my people than you would, just to let you know that I'm on your side, and that's what I'm seeing. I've seen it in my own personal experiences, and I've seen it played out over and over again on in different situations throughout this country. And I am thinking that's a very big problem. When you have a city like North Charleston where the population is 65% black, but the population of the police department is 80% white, that is a problem. There's a lot of people that will tell you that that's not a problem. There's a lot of people that will tell you, I was just watching Fox News a few minutes ago where they were saying that that's A, not a problem, and B, the reason that is because black people aren't applying for police jobs. They even pointed out that the city of North Charleston had to search out black police officers because they weren't applying for the jobs. But I don't think that's the truth. I think that the reason why you're not seeing as many black police officers on the job is because of the testing. I think it's a very biased way of testing police officers to see if they qualify for the jobs. I think that's the biggest part of it. It's easy to say if the government comes in and say you need to hire more black police officers because your population is more than half black. It's easy to get rid of that by saying, okay, we'll test everyone, and whoever passes the test, we'll interview them for the job. But if the test is culturally biased against the black community, you're not going to get that many black police officers who get interviewed and eventually hired for the job. And not only that, when you have a police department, a precinct rather, that is 80% white, 65% black community, you're going to have a thing that no one ever talks about. You're naturally going to have more biased incidents between the cops and the community. And it's not so much that everyone is racist, it's the lack of understanding of one culture to another. And because you have that, when it's time to interview or consider a black person for a job, that person is more than likely going to have some type of discrepancies in their record, in their arrest record. Or they're more than likely going to have some type of discrepancies in motor vehicle stops, things that are going to disqualify them for consideration for the police department. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at there. You can't say that having 80% white officers on the police department, policing a population of 65% black, you can't say that that's a good thing. Even if those police officers are very good cops and they mean well towards the community, they're not trying to do anything harm to the community, even if you have that, you're still creating a problem between the community and the law enforcement. I think we need to bring community policing back to the table when it comes to law enforcement all over this country. You need officers in place that are going to do what they have to do to bridge the gap between the law enforcement community and the community at large. We don't know in this situation if that police officer had biased or racist views towards black people. We don't know that. We may find that out in the coming months and during the investigation. But the simple fact that it happened the way it happened and he lied about it is going to create racial tension, not only in North Charleston, but all over this country. When you consider all the police-involved shootings of black young men or black men, period, in this country that has been going on. You know, I just saw something on the Rodney King case, which happened in 1991. But you don't even have to go back as far as that. All you have to do is go back in the last 4 or 5 years, and you'll see a spike in police officer shooting young or black men. And this situation in North Charleston is not an isolated case, And I think we're doing a great disjustice if we're going to show it as a isolated case. It's not an isolated case. I think there should be an overhaul in every police department across this country. I think the Department of Justice needs to start launching investigations all over this country until we get to the root of the problem, until we get to what the problems are and try to fix them. Because if we don't start here, if we don't start now, we're going to see more of these incidents all over this country, and it's a shame. Back to the black police officer that was on the scene. I wish, as a black man, that we didn't have to try to prove ourselves so much to the powers that be in this country. I don't know that officer. I'm not going to say anything bad about that officer. Don't know what his role was in that situation, other than the fact that I saw him there on camera. But there should be some policing of the police. And in order for you to do that, I think that needs to start with fellow police officers standing up to their brother officers and saying, listen, you're wrong for this. You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have done it this way. It was a better way to handle this. And if we keep hiding under the covers and not saying anything, again, this incident is going to repeat itself, unfortunately. It's going to continue to show its ugly face. And I think there needs to be certain laws on the books that needs to be looked at. I don't think that cops should have such a power over the community where they can just decide when to take a person's life. I think there should be more oversight in that area. They're talking about using body cameras on police officers, and that may help, but I have a problem with that as well. When you have police departments that are willing to destroy tapes, when you have police departments that are willing to push things under the cover, if not for a civilian taking this video, who knows where this situation would have went to. It would have more than likely, based on different cases in this country, it would have more than likely been pushed under the cover, and no one would have said anything about it. So body cameras may help, but at the same time, if we're going to continue to have, continue to allow police, our law enforcement, to have ultimate power over the community, the body cameras are only going to go so far. And again, that again is not the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem, in my opinion, is the training that police officers get, where they're pretty much brainwashed into believing that they are the ultimate power. They're brainwashed into believing that the community is them against the community. And we were told, when I was in the police academy, we were told daily that we have to make it home to our families every night. So what that does is, if you're constantly being told that, regardless of what your race is as a police officer, you're constantly being told that when you go out on the road, that is what's in the forefront of your mind. So it does not matter what the situation is. The thing you're going to think about the most is, I'm going to make it home to my family tonight. So it's either me or you. And I have the weaponry, I have the training, and I have the authority to make sure that it's you and not me. So it has to start with training. It has to start with police officers having a different mentality. It has to start with the testing. When you're making biased tests, so you can focus on the group of police officers that you want there. And we have to have more focus on community policing, where there are police officers that are walking the beat. They're spending time in the community. They're talking to the residents of the community. They're pretty much are intermingling themselves into the families, into the fabric of the community. We need that. Therefore, the community will trust our police officers more. The police officers will trust the community more, and we can start to work together. Now, it's not going to be an overnight process. It's going to take forever. It's going to feel like forever, but it has to start somewhere. We are far past bedtime with police officers killing our black men. And I said sometime before, if you cut off a head, the body will fall. Well, unfortunately, what has been happening in the black community is that our heads have been being cut off. The black male in our community is the head. And if you're constantly taking us away from our families, like I said before, that's when you're going to see the high prison rate. That's when you're going to see the children out on the street with no direction, because the head is not there. So this has to be a conversation that has to be had with our leaders, and it has to start somewhere to start fixing this problem. Again, I'm not calling this officer racist. I don't know him. I don't know anything about him, and there's an ongoing investigation about that. So I'm not going to call him racist. But when you have an incident like this, it definitely points in that direction. Thank you.